Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Well, hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, your host, and today I'm here with Suzanne Culberg, and she comes from Australia, and I'll let her tell you where because it's a fun story. But if you are feeling guilty because you feel like you have to say yes to everything, or you feel like you have to be the super mom, the super woman, the super boss, the super entrepreneur, then today is your day to listen, because we are going to talk about how it's okay to say no. So Suzanne, without further ado, why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Thank you for having me, Charisse. Yes, I'm Suzanne Culberg from the future, otherwise known as Australia. I live in Sydney currently, either 1 hour or 3 hours from the Harbour Bridge. It depends on traffic. I grew up in Tasmania, which is the tiny little island down the bottom. And at the time of recording this, I'm on a mumcation, home alone, because my husband's taken my kids back to where we were born to hang out with our extended family.
So you got out of having to be with family. And
I got time alone. I'm an introvert as well, I should say, a really hardcore, socially awkward introvert. So time alone in my house is like my dream vacation. I don't have to go anywhere. I just want everywhere else to go somewhere.
I know. I often think, because I travel quite a bit, and I'm kind of getting tired of traveling, especially the planes. It's 12 hours to get, somewhere on the east side. And so I just wish sometimes that I could have that mom vacation where they leave and I get to be home alone.
Well, it's a fun fact. When my children were little, because our family is all interstate, we used to hire a babysitter and go out, as you do. But neither my husband nor I like going out, or do we particularly like kids' movies. Like, I'll just be honest, they're not my thing. So one day the babysitter we hired was really excited about watching some new movie with the kids. And then I had the idea was born. I was like, instead of babysitting them here, would you take them to the cinema? Because we fortunately live like 5 minutes from there. And she's like, sure. So we'd pay her to take the kids to the movies so we could just stay home alone. It was the best.
See, you just have to be creative to come up with different ideas that work for you.
Well, the thing is, people are like, oh, it's expensive, but going out for a meal is expensive, and we didn't particularly, we didn't not enjoy it, but as I said, I'd just rather be home alone. So it was actually ended up being a cheaper night out to be a night in.
That's great. That's fantastic. And we love our children. So we all have to say that. I absolutely adore my children. But as a mom, sometimes you do need a break. And that's called the self-care that we have.
Oh, 100%. And I think that is healthy. It's healthy for you to have the downtime. It's healthy for them to learn that it's okay to be away from you. Like, I have traveled a lot and I've had a number of mumcations now, and my kids, they do miss me. Like, the tail end, now they're coming home tomorrow, there's more messages, FaceTime, Mummy, we miss you. But it's also, I just think, I love Pink, the singer, and she has one song and she's like, go away, give me a chance to miss you. That line always stands out to me, because it's like, yeah, when they're with you all the time, I never miss them because they were with me all the time. So when they're away, it's like, yeah, I do miss them.
No, I get it. And I'm the type of mom, I like my kids to be here and bring their kids over to play. I'd much prefer that. But I have some friends, or the kids' friends, moms, where they'll let the child stay at our house literally for 3 days. And I'm like, there's no reaching out. How's she doing? What's going on? She just lets them stay. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I could never do that. I couldn't. But I think for her, it's her way of having some alone time. And I think that she's great.
Well, I think that's deciding on that too. So like, when my children are away, I encourage them to contact me once per day. My son can be quite clingy. He's on the spectrum, and sometimes he'd spend the whole time while he was away chatting to me. Oh, wow. Then neither of us are really getting that downtime or the break. And so that reminder to him, like, you can tell me all about what you've done when you get back, but you're not doing anything if you're talking to me the whole time. And he's like, oh yeah. So he just sometimes needs that reminder. But or if there's an emergency, honestly, contact me instantly. Or if you're feeling sick or whatever. But sometimes I see people get a babysitter or go out, and then they're constantly on the phone checking. And it's like, are you really getting that time that you need if you're talking or checking the constantly?
Yeah, no, that's very, very true. So let's shift gears for a second and talk about what you do, and tell me, why is it so hard for people, women particularly, to say no?
I think there's a lot of guilt associated with it. Like, I'm not a good person if I say no. People won't like me. It's like a little people-pleasing nugget in there. I don't want to disappoint others. Or the biggest one I see is confrontation. Like, people, especially women, will tend to avoid confrontation, and saying no can seem like confrontational. And it's often just a matter of a tiny reframe there, because if you say no, hard stop, the end, like, a lot of people will be like, no is a complete sentence. Technically, true, but it's often a lot harder to say no and then full stop. It could be no, not today. No, not right now. No, I am at capacity, or I already have commitments. Because the thing is, when we say yes all the time and we drop everything, that's what we tend to do. We have plans. I was planning to, and the plan could be something as simple as, I want to read a book, or I want to watch a new Netflix show that's just dropped. But we think, oh, that's so selfish to do this thing. So we drop that. Or it could be things we'd actually had planned, especially those of us in business. It can be so much more enticing to go help someone else than it is to write a blog post or edit an email or follow up. So, sometimes we give ourselves the out. I know whenever I'm not wanting to do stuff in my work, I'll be like, oh, kids, do you need help with your homework? And I'm like, when I'm volunteering, I'm not waiting for them to come to me. I'm like, yeah, it's me trying to avoid something that I, had planned to do. So there's a lot of layers in it there, but also too conditioning, like good girl conditioning. Good girls are helpful, and they, never say no. So yeah, there's lots involved.
It's so true. And I wanted to be like the super mom, right? Where I've never had a desire to be the PTA president, nor will I ever have a desire. That's like the school mom. But every year when you go to meet the teacher, it's, can you volunteer, what days, and all this stuff. And so for, I think 2 years, I had this every Monday. I went to this daughter. Every Tuesday, I went to this daughter. And I loved that time. I did. I loved being in the classroom. I loved seeing them. I loved everything. But to commit to that became difficult. And so finally somebody said, you don't have to do that. I mean, just stop. But I need to be the good mom, and I need to do this. And that's fine. You can. But to commit to things, what I found is, because of my career and the things I'm involved in, I was actually starting to look like a slacker, because I couldn't attempt that, or I couldn't attend this because I did have work obligations, or I was out of town. And so I think that sometimes you have good intentions, but it's okay to just say, no, you don't need to do that. We all have seasons in our lives. And I use this a lot, that when you're younger, a newborn baby, they're attached to you, literally, right? And so people give you a pass sometimes, but as you get older and different things change, because I have kids from 9 years old to 24 years old, that's a huge gamut. And so this kid needs to have my help to get his house ready, and this child needs help with the homework. There's so much pulling on you, and then there's several different companies. And so I think that learning to say no and trying to overconsume, as you talk about, trying to be the super mom, it's just tiring. And eventually
it's draining.
Yeah.
And I love how you mentioned seasons, because I talk about seasons a lot in my work. You can have different seasons in different areas of your life. You can be in a personal winter, like you find you're feeling quite isolated, your friendships, that kind of thing. But then your business can be in a summer. It can be consistent, or your work, if you're traditionally employed, that's going really, really well. And then your family could be like in an autumn. Like my oldest is about to finish primary school and start high school next year. So it's kind of like a real, harvest type season before she starts a new chapter. And then next year will be a spring. And that will be a whole new aspect, because the high school is quite a way that she has to travel. She has to catch more than one bus. It's going to be a transition period. And sometimes these seasons take more from us than we had anticipated. Like, as you said, when you have a newborn baby, people tend to get that conceptually. They are literally attached to you. But when you have different transitions and different things in your life, different people, it takes more from them, or more is involved, depending on the person, the circumstance, where they live, the other people. And I don't think we have to explain ourselves. Like, that's the thing. We tend to kind of over-explain it. It's like a no, as in, no, not right now, not today, or not an ongoing commitment. Like if my kid's school asked me to do something as a one-off, most of the time would be a yes. But if they asked me to commit to something every week, no. And also too, how many commitments do your children have? Like both of my children are allowed to have one sport / after school activity that they can do. That's no worries at all. But beyond that, I don't want to be, and everyone gets to choose, but I don't want to be like Mondays we have soccer and Tuesdays we have violin and Wednesday, like I'm never going to be that mom. And my daughter has another interest she's picking up right now. And as she's coming into high school, I was like, if you can organize a bus to travel there after school and, like, fund the thing. But in terms of distance, I don't have capacity to take you to another commitment. So it needs to be something that you sort out. And I think it gives her a level of responsibility. It's not mum's going to drop everything and take her to all these things.
Right. And I love that because so many times we as mothers need to try to say that our kids are perfect because we're perfect and you're trying to live vicariously through them sometimes. So you have them in. I know people in my own neighborhood that their kids have 5 different things. So my girls, I am very much of your opinion, 1 or 2, that's all, because you don't want to overwhelm them. But these moms who have them in all these different things, they have to have piano, then they have to have singing lessons, and they do dance lessons. And unless the kid wants to do that, then give them a break and let them be a child, because my girls will go over and say, hey, can you play? Oh no, they can only play on this day. Really?
And also, as you said, does the kid want to do it, especially something like an instrument or something that you're going to be having to harp on them about practicing? Because it's funny, my daughter is multi-passionate, and at the school they have lots of activities, and most years she tries out from them all, and she makes maybe 1 or 2. This year, she's made everything. She's on the dance team. She's a student leader. She does debate. She does, like, they had the interest group photo day just last term at the last week, so 2 weeks ago. She was in 6 photos. She's taking her costume and changing, and I was like, how do you feel? She's like, I think I've done too much. But sometimes it's like for them to learn that firsthand, like, taking all these extracurricular activities is a little bit too much, and learn that experientially rather than me saying you can't do them all. And because they're all through the school, I don't have to take her to them unless there's a performance. So she also does AFL. So she does Australian rules football. And in her personal one that she does that I take her to, she's a cheerleader. So it's hilarious. She's just never stops, that kid. But she's realized actually maybe this is too much. And next year she's like, I can see why. And I think sometimes too, you got to experience why you make the decision that you do. She's going to cut back a bit.
That's so funny because I was that child, and I think I loved all of those activities, and I think I had ADD probably. So because of that, I wanted to be in lots of things, but there was an underlying thing. I was trying to prove to myself I was good enough, or keep myself busy, or because I felt like I didn't have any friends. And so it'll be interesting as she gets older to see what is her driving force of why
I'm be curious, yeah. But it's interesting too. She does love to go from thing to thing. And the only thing that the only rule I have is she has to fulfill the commitment that what she's committed to. So like if I've bought a term of ballet, so she started with ballet, then she went to jazz. Anyway, long story short, she's now in cheer. But she's decided now she wants to do figure skating, which is really difficult in Australia. We're not really an ice country. But I was like, you need to finish the commitment for cheer, because we said we'd do a whole year. So I'll be curious next year to see, does she still want to go through with that, like the figure skating, or does she want to keep with cheer? But yeah, I don't know. She's always been the one who, whatever it is, I'll try it. Yeah. Whereas my son is much more reserved and like, no.
Yeah. And I had to come to terms with that too, because none of my kids really wanted to. None of them played a sport really. I mean, they did track, but I did basketball for 4 years. And so there were different things that I had to realize, just because I did that doesn't mean they have to. And you're right. My son's also on the spectrum. And so getting him out of his room, not that he was even playing any sports or, video game, like he wasn't doing any of that stuff, but he just did not have an interest until his last year. Then all of a sudden he wanted to be involved in a whole bunch of stuff. And now that he's at college, like a totally different kid. It's just very interesting to see.
Oh, my son, on the spectrum too, he has to really be interested in something. And once he's interested, he's unstoppable. So his passion is art. And he's an absolute brilliant artist. People are like, who did this? I'm like, Casimir. How old is he? 9. He's incredible artist. But most happy in his room, in the house, not out and about doing things. And I encourage him, but I'm never going to force him.
Right. So getting to the people pleasing versus boundaries, are you like, how do you establish those? What do you recommend?
You can't change what you're not aware of. So in the beginning, a lot of people I don't work with don't realize that they're an overgiver or a people pleaser. They don't identify with the term. Right. They're like, I'm just a good friend.
Yep.
I'm just generous. So it's kind of like doing a emotional audit or just observing what's happening. So if someone asks you something in the beginning, don't change anything, but just notice in the body, is there any twinge of, or any little bit of resentment, or any of like, you see your phone ringing and you're like, I don't want to answer, or I'm not going to open that message because I know that they're going to ask me for something. So noticing the signs for you, it can be really, really powerful, because we often don't notice. I think people pleasers, I heard this term once, like people often refer to them as doormats, but somebody said they're exploding doormats. Mm-hmm. So like you get to the point where you just can't take it anymore. And if you ever have a moment where you're like, after all I've done for you, or something like that, it's like, whoo, that's when the explosion is like imminent. Yeah. So it's like noticing, where are you just immediately jumping in, volunteering, saying yes, or are there things that you're doing that you don't want to do? Like you mentioned being on 2 committees for school. Is there anything where you look at your calendar and you're like, oh, it's Tuesday night, not that again?
Yeah.
And being aware of where you're perhaps saying yes when you want to say no. That's the first step.
Mm-hmm.
The next step is working out which commitments to let go of and how to do it in a kind way. Like Brene Brown says, clear is kind.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we think we're being clear. So I've got this perfect example. My sister sent me a message. She's like, I channeled my inner Suze. I'm so excited. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Anyway, then like an hour later, she's like, it all didn't work out. And I said, what happened? And she sent me through like screenshots. And this person said to her, hey, I want to come get some eggs. My sister has like 100 chickens. And can I bring some recycling over for your bin? And my sister responded, tons of eggs. Yep. My recycle bin's full, but I always put stuff in the neighbor's. And then she's like, so she turns up with like 3 bags of recycling. I don't understand. And I was like, I got the message she sent me. I just kind of like underlined it and said, but I always put stuff in the neighbor's. It's like, if you said my recycle bin is full, end of story. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, she didn't even see it. So sometimes we get so frustrated. We're like, why are people, like I've said no, or why are people, overextending? It's like, but we give them a little bit out. Like, can you do this? Oh no, oh, just this once, or but this time, or, we kind of, my recycle bin is full, not today, like whatever, end it there. Because this is why resentment and frustration can happen, because that person on the other side of that has got no idea that my sister was annoyed, because she said, oh, my recycle bin's full, but I always put stuff in the neighbor's. It's it's not a clear invitation, bring it over. But I'm like, I would have brought recycling had I sent you that message, because I would have thought, oh, well, you're going to go and put it in your neighbor's for me. Great, thank you. Mm-hmm. So looking at where are ways that perhaps you think you're being really clear, but you're not. Mm-hmm. And also too, the biggest thing, say you're going to turn down the committee. Say you're like, actually, my time at this is done. Thank you. When you do feel guilty or whatever, they can ask someone else. It's not on you to find your replacement, because that's the other thing too. Sometimes people go above and beyond. I can't do this anymore. And then they go and like ask around, or, that's where your commitment with this ends. Or maybe what you do is you say, I can't do Tuesday night parents and friends. Or sorry, you call it PTA. We call it parents and friends here. I will finish at the end of term or the end of semester. So you give them a little bit of leeway to find someone, but you're clear that at the end of term or the end of semester, maybe you'd be really clear at the end of term 3, 2024. Because sometimes it could be like, which term?
Yeah.
So, when people say I'm going to change something next year, it's like, which next year? So start to put the things in place. And then when you do have carved out that time or space for yourself, what are you going to invest it in? Because sometimes people will then immediately go and take up another commitment. It's like, no, I've taken this space to learn the piano as an adult, read a book, have some time on my own, whatever it is, and really allow yourself to enjoy that time that you've created for you.
Yeah. And I think to add to that, the word can't, so many people go, I can't. Hey, can you do this? Oh, I can't. Well, why can't you? Like, I don't like that word because there's so many reasons. First of all, you can do anything you set your mind to. A. Second of all, you're taking the power away from yourself. And who's now controlling that? Just say, no, thank you. Or I have another commitment. Like there's this card group in my neighborhood they've started. First of all, I don't remember signing up for it because I have zero interest in that stuff. But she has been bombarding like, hey, we need to get together. There's only 3 people in this group. I don't want to be one of them. She goes, okay, when are we going to get together? When are we get together? And so without trying to hurt her, I just said, look, I am overcommitted this month. I cannot commit to this date. And see, I just said, I cannot, I won't commit to this date. And so I'm swamped. I will not be here this month. And I just then need to work up to say, look, I don't want to take time away from my family, my friends, or anything like that to be able to go make cards when I have probably 2,000 sitting in my cabinets. And so I think that sometimes when we take the I can't, it's a cop-out. Just take responsibility for the fact that you either don't want to, you don't have the time, you don't have the desire, and just be honest that, no, thank you. I'm not going to participate in that.
And if I don't want to is a bit hard for you to say. At this stage, It isn't now for me. If someone says, why not? I'd be like, because I don't want to. Like, complete sentence. It could be, it's not a priority for me right now.
Right.
Because making cards for them obviously is. Or the other thing too, if it's something like that, are they really wanting to make cards? In that case, it might be true. Or are they wanting to catch up? Because it could be like, I am not available for making cards. We could go for a walk. We could, do something else. Because I think that's the thing. Sometimes people pick something because they think, oh, she likes this. When really what they're really wanting is to connect. Like the movies is such a great example. Right. If people say, hey, do you want to go see whatever it is? I don't do horror in any way, shape or form. Right. I'd be like, not keen on that title. What else is on? So like I'm open for the movie, or if let's go out and eat at this restaurant. I'm not particularly keen on Thai food. Are you interested in Greek or something else? Because if you are, or if you're at capacity, as you said, like I'm booked out, I'm at capacity. I don't choose to prioritize that right now. And the thing is, sometimes people are like, I don't want to hurt their feelings, but doing something to placate them, like that's really manipulative. And people, when you really see that, it's like, I'm only doing this because I want them to like me. When you see that as a form of manipulation, then you can't unsee it. It's like, I'd rather them not like me for who I really am than like me because I'm doing things that they want to do when I have no interest. And it really hurts sometimes when you're really excited about something and you find out they didn't like it at all after how long a time. Whereas if they were really honest and said, look, I already have 1,000 cards. I love that you asked me. Thank you so much. I have a stock. I've got cards coming out the wazoo.
I do.
What else could we do together if that's what you wanted to do?
And I wish what I would have said is, I apologize. I don't know how my name got on this list, but I'm not interested in making that. And I should have said that at the very, very beginning.
Well, think about emails. How many times, and I'm sure everyone's done this, you open your email. How did I even get onto this list? Who is this? We're so quick to unsubscribe.
Right.
And you can't really do that in real life, unsubscribe. But you can say, like, I'm not sure how I got it. And that's honest. Because sometimes the person on the other end, it gives them a moment of reflection and go, oh, I thought, like we've somehow had a failure to communicate. Like somewhere along the line, maybe she said something about cards and you're like, oh, I love cards. So she assumed that you'd want to make cards together, but she clearly asked for permission? No. So it allows reflection on both sides.
No, it's so true. True. All right. So you are a mother, and I want you to imagine sitting at the park on a park bench. And this pregnant woman of 9 months comes and sits next to you. And you get to watch her waddle and sit down, and you just, all these memories come floating in, and you start having a conversation. And she starts saying, what advice would you give me? So all the gamut that you have currently and all the wisdom that you have of being a mom for the years that you have, What advice would you give this new mom?
Yeah, it's a quote by Gretchen Rubin. Do you know her?
I don't.
Oh, she wrote a book called The Happiness Project and a few others.
Oh, I've heard that.
But I heard this when my children were young, and I swear it changed my life. The days are long, but the years are short.
Yep.
And whenever I catch myself, sometimes somebody's broken something or somebody's knocked something over or they're bickering again or whatever, someone's been sick with a 3-day stomach bug and you're like, is this ever going to end? And I just think of that quote, the days are long, but the years are short. Because before you know it, like my children are 9, 11 now, and one of my friends is pregnant. And I was like, she was nervous about the sleeping and nappies and whatever. And I was like, yeah, when you're in it, it is, the days are long, but I haven't had to change a nappy or help anyone get to sleep in years. So, you do forget about it. And instead of saying, like people say, oh, it goes by so quickly or, enjoy it now. I remember when people said that to me, it used to frustrate me. It's like, enjoy it now? I'm up to my elbows in vomit. How can I enjoy this? But, the days are long, but the years are short.
That is so true. We have the same age, my youngest two. So I have 6, but the youngest 2 are 9 and 11. And it's hard, I think, because there's such a gap. My son just graduated high school, and so the first 4 are gone. They're all in school or working. And it's hard now because I see that and I go, oh my gosh, I messed up here. I messed up here. Or I wish I would have, if I could just have a do-over. And then I look at these 2 and I'm like, I actually do have a do-over.
100%.
I'll screw them up too. It's fine because that's what we as parents do is we screw our kids up unintentionally. We do the best that we can with what we have, but every child is different. And so for me, like I have all these, it's weird. All of my clients have these newborn babies, and I mean newborn babies, and I'm watching them get frustrated because they're so tired and blah, blah, blah. And I just see this tiny little baby on the chest that's looks like a doll because they're always asleep. And I just think, and I say to them, enjoy the moments because they go by so quickly. And they do. The days, you're right, they are long, but god dang it, my twins are going to be 25 in December. It's crazy. And that's the part that I remember when they were just little babies in the NICU fighting for their lives. And so I think that we just have to enjoy our moments every single day. Find something to be happy about, something to be grateful about, and something to pat ourselves on the back about. And if we disappoint somebody, that's okay, because what you're saying yes to, you're saying no to something else. And that's something that, if you think about that, okay, so if I say yes to going to do this that I don't want to do at all, then I'm saying no to what I really do need to be doing or want. So
something I have in front of my computer, and I encourage everyone, grab a piece of paper, just a tiny little square, and write yes on one side and no on the other. I have this in my wallet. I have it on my fridge. I have them all around my house, little pieces of paper.
Wow.
And when somebody asks you for something and you hold the yes out to them, what are you saying to yourself? So it's like, oh, there's the no. Because as you said, when you say yes to someone else, you're saying no to yourself. And you are a priority. And what you're modeling for your kids is that I matter and I'm a priority. Something that I've started doing for the last month is I meditate twice a day. I've always wanted to do it my entire life, and I've always put it off. And I started with once a day, and now I do it twice a day. I explain it to the kids, and I was like, and I go and say, I'm going to go and meditate now. So, bar, blood and bone, don't interrupt me. And sometimes they'll come barreling in and go, oh, I'm just meditating, barreling out again. Because if I drop my meditation to go and fix roadblocks or, help them plant something in the backyard or whatever it is that they're doing, then I'm not getting my time. And that they can wait. Like, as I said, if there was an emergency, 100% I'd be right there. But most of the time, and also too, getting clear on what actually is an emergency. Sometimes it's so basic to us, but I remember the first time telling my kids, don't interrupt me unless it was important. And my daughter comes charging in and I'm like, what's happened? And she's like, it's important. And I'm like, what is it? I can fit 27 blueberries in my mouth. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we have a very different definition of what's important. So now that they're older, blood and bone, they get that. So, yeah.
Fantastic. That's so good. Momhood is so fantastic.
Oh, well, sometimes it's, as you said, like it's the littlest things or the things that they discover that to us is so mundane, like looking for things in the clouds. I love how you said something little each day. Every day when I hug my son when he goes off to school, I'm waiting for the age that he doesn't want to hug me anymore because it's uncool. So every day I enjoy that hug. It's my favorite part of the day because I'm like, it won't be much longer before this doesn't happen again.
It's so true. So true. Well, if our listeners want to learn more or get in touch with you, how would they find you?
Best place to go is my website, SuzanneCulberg.com. You can send me a message there. If you go to my website, very much my rebellious nature is noted there because at the top it says don't click. That's to my contact page. And my contact page is the most fun page on my website. So I have the don't click to drive people there. And you can send me a message through there. I have a podcast. I have all sorts of information. So yeah, web or YouTube. I do have a YouTube, Suzanne Culberg, as well. And that's where I love to hang out.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. Say
no to somebody today if you really don't want to do it, and just start practicing. And I love that note card thing because I'm visual. And so realizing if you're saying yes to somebody, you're saying no to yourself. So learn to say no and know that it's okay. Go out and make it a great day. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.